Avanipate, Jaya Soma, Soma Mole, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, Naraditya, Gopishwara, Brajavilasi, Yugangri Padme, Yugangri, Padme, Prema, Prayacha, Nirupadi, Namo Namaste, Gopishwar Mahadev ki Jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you for having me in your beautiful community, this new Gokul Dham. It's my first time to the Lone Star State since 2005. I came here with our Gurukul. I think we traveled with about 20 kids. We had a 15-seater bus and an 8-seater minivan. I drove the minivan and I cooked. And I was the sole graduate of the 2005 class. We had about 20-25 kids, but a little younger, a little older, so I was at the top of my class and the bottom. So I can say that with honor. But it was a beautiful school. We came here 2005. We met our Srila Gurudev, Shri Srimad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj in Houston, where he has a beautiful community. We're very lucky to have his darshan. He was very affectionate to his sons and daughters. I was lucky to go on morning walks with him, and he asked me, what is Samartha Rati, Samanjasa Rati, and Sadharani Rati? Anyone here? So I also didn't know, so it's okay. And he was asking all his sannyasis also, and he wasn't satisfied with their answers. And he said, hey, you boy. Not like that, but I was just a little kid, you know, I'm like looking up at giants. And I don't know. And he said, don't worry, you will know. You'll know soon. This is a very deep topic. I remember we had a darshan with Gurudev and all the boys were there, and God sisters, God brothers, and one of my dear friends, God brothers, asked, oh Gurudev, how can we get your mercy? And Gurudev smiled and said, my mercy is flowing like a river. You want it, take. You have to drink it. If you want more, then you have to bathe in it. What is Gurudev's mercy? So we're going to talk about that. And how do we dive in? Drink. Okay? Nigama kalpa taror khalitam phalam. Srimad Bhagavatam, the 3rd verse says, Pibata, drink. Drink. What should we drink? We are hearing on the drive from Dallas how in this world people are looking for bliss and they're not satisfied with happiness. Happiness and bliss, what's the difference? Bliss is more sweet, shorter, right? Bhakti, bhav, bliss. Happiness is sukh. Sukh means happiness, according to the senses or different levels. But what is bliss? Pibata, you should drink that. Rasamalayam, if you don't drink that bliss, then you're going to try to drink material, intoxicating elixirs that you think will make you happy. What are those? There's not one kind of alcohol in this world. There's many kinds of alcohol. We're going to talk about some of those kinds of alcohol. Pratishta, name and fame. This is intoxication. 4 regulative principles. Don't take intoxication. What is that? Do you think alcohol is intoxication? This is one kind of intoxication. This is easy to overcome. Pratishta, prestige. Oh, sannyasis drink more than drunks. Oh, drinking. Wow, I am sannyasi. But Mahaprabhu said, okay, we have service to perform, but don't identify with the flesh, identify with the spirit. Spirit is sannyasi. Sannyasi in the mood of the Brajagopis cowherd damsels of Vrindavan who offered everything to Sri Krishna without any regard for the opinion of society, whether they would be discarded as unchaste. They offered everything to Krishna. That is sannyas. And in the order of sannyas, we also have service to society and service to God and service to Guru. But don't be an alcoholic. This is my meditation. Why? I'm going to post this. I don't have brahmacharis here at this moment. We have Shilokanath Prabhu, but we're going to be live streaming regularly. We have a podcast we're starting. Since I took sannyas in 2022 Kartik, I've been mostly silent on social media for 3.5, 4 months. But people are saying, why aren't you talking more? I said, I'm always talking. I'm just a little bit shy, a little bit holding back. Why? Because the truth is very sweet. But also sometimes a nice chutney is sweet and
spicy.
So not too much spice, but a little bit of spice is good. One of my friends says, there's no Leela without Jatila. Who knows Jatila? Jatila? Who's Jatila? Wait, hold on. Rupa, Braja. Braja, Rupa? Rupa, Braja.
Rupa.
Okay. Who's Jatila?
Radharani's mother.
Mother-in-law. In-law. She's always causing mischief to Radharani. So there's no story without conflict. So this is because it's good for us in the progress of the soul to understand that we have our own internal conflicts, and there's also help manifest externally for our growth. Right? So the conflicts we face in life help us evolve spiritually. Ultimately, that's the purpose of samsara. The school of hard knocks. Here we are. I remember as a kid, I remember some of my earliest memories. I said yesterday, or maybe it was this morning, we started our podcast. We did one yesterday also, but I said, I'm not really going to talk about myself unless it comes up in the course of the discussion. But I remember some of my earliest memories are the school of hard knocks. Why? As a boy, I think I was 3. I think, as far as I can say, this is my earliest memory, but I have 5 sisters. I must have had my youngest sister just born around that time, but 4 elder sisters that were great tutors for me. My first teachers, my sisters, my mom, my dad. My elder sister, she's living in Australia, Gold Coast, with 4 kids. Great family, great community, great teacher. She was a hard teacher when I was growing up. She was very serious. She was like second head of the family. Because we had a store in town where we sold art and gifts, and then we had our farm community, and our parents we'd go back and forth. So whenever my parents weren't there, she was head of the household. She was tough. She was a matriarch. One time she told me, "You're full of it." You know what it is. I said, okay, no problem. One time I lost a little knife. It was like a Swiss Army knife, and someone had given it to me. And I was kind of detached. I said, you know what, life's temporary, we're all going to die. I said, this is a bad mentality. Take responsibility. This is your negligence. I said, okay. So anyway, I was sitting in a laundromat. There's a chair on either side, and there was like a bar in the middle. Have anyone seen like that? I don't know, this is an old-fashioned laundromat. This must have been in 1990. And I was playing in between. And then I slipped, and right behind me was a glass wall, and I don't remember that part. I remember the part where I was lying on the floor of our van, our cargo van, bleeding, you know, and the towels wet with blood under my head. So this is the school of hard knocks. I started getting lessons given to me when I was 3. Maybe before that, I don't know. I remember growing up in the community, we had these rocks in different areas, and I would fall off them and bang. And just, you know, when you're a kid, I guess your skull's a little bit more flexible. You absorb punches a little better. Hopefully, you know, not too much. But, you know, when you fall, get up, you keep walking. So the point is, this samsara or material existence, sometimes it teaches us through conflict and through struggle and how we grow and evolve through that. So anyhow, the topic tonight is Lord Shiva and some of the important teachings of Lord Shiva. So I usually just kind of do a stream of, I have a general idea of a theme, but then we just kind of speak as it comes out. So we were speaking about different kinds of intoxication. One of them is name and fame, alcoholism. People who get taste for it, it's like eating blood and you want more and more. They say, oh, you need more honor, more prestige. So you have to be careful. I learned this verse early on. Pratishta Sukarirabhishta. This is Hindi or Sanskrit for name and fame is the stool of a hog. It's funny, isn't it, Arjun? Yeah. Because you don't have a problem with it. Abhimanam Surapanam. Pride and arrogance is like the alcohol of the gods. Surapanam, taking sura. What's the next line? Pratishta Sukarirvishta Abhimanam Gordavam Sudha Rodavam. Gordavam means to be glorified, to be glorious. Shri 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 100,008. This is pure hell. Sarvam Tyaktva, giving up all of this, Haribhajet, worship God. So this is one of the 4 regulative principles. Try to give up intoxication. So there are many topics. Try to give up. There are many vices. Sloth, greed, avarice, all these different things. Lust, anger, greed. So Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva, maybe we'll have to speak more tomorrow because there's so much to cover. Lord Shiva is a very transcendental personality. You can think of Lord Shiva in a little bit like a way of a father. He is like a father. In the scriptures of the Vaishnava texts and the authorized Vedic version, it's described that Lord Shiva, in his highest aspect, as Sadashiva, is both God and the servant of God. And an analogy is given of milk. When a culture is given in the milk and it forms into yogurt, that is Lord Shiva. So Vishnu or Krishna is the milk, Lord Shiva is the yogurt. You cannot say they are different because the yogurt came from the milk. However, the yogurt cannot again become milk. The yogurt has its own functions, probiotics, but it has a culture there. So that means Lord Shiva comes in contact with the material energy. The Pradhan, the aggregate of all material elements and energies in this cosmos, and all the infinite, the multitude of multiverses. So I want to focus on a particular story tonight, because there are so many things to discuss. There are hundreds and hundreds of beautiful stories of Lord Shiva. I want to speak about a particular one that I think is quite relevant in our current times. So Lord Shiva is very renounced. If you see pictures of Lord Shiva, you don't see him wearing a business suit in a skyscraper. Has anyone seen Lord Shiva wearing a business suit on Wall Street? Lord Shiva is dressed in a loincloth, sometimes, or deerskin. He smears his body with ash from a crematorium. Right? This itself is a teaching. Shiva is a guru. So he's teaching us the ephemeral nature of mortal life and how to seek higher spiritual principles. So he is God in the form of the servant, and the teacher, helping us understand how to approach the true, ultimate, Supreme Lord, Sri Krishna. This is another thing that I've been thinking about a lot, so I'm kind of giving some personal reflections mixed in. It's important to come to terms with the reality of death. This is a very hard lesson for us all. I know people, obviously, who have been going through this in the COVID pandemic, but this is not just a symptom of this pandemic, this is a symptom of all time. Just recently I was in Hilo and a dear friend's cow was passing. This is very difficult. The son was having great difficulty with this and loved the cow. I grew up in our farm. We had a lot of really traumatic experiences with our livestock, our animals. We don't really think of them as our family, really. This is kind of graphic stories, I'm sorry, but one time we had a mare and she had a few different calves, and we had a bunch of kids playing around. We had a week-long festival with our guru, regularly every year in June, and these kids were throwing rocks. There was like a tin shed and just kind of playing around, and the baby horse got kind of scared and it jumped and it kind of tried to jump over the fence, and it got landed on top of a T-bar. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but it was very sad. And the mother was there, and our Gurudev was right during the middle of the festival. We had another experience similar to that. It's just one of many things, It's not to emphasize the crude nature of anything, but it's a reality of life. Death is the other side of the coin. The wisdom teaching of the Bhagavad Gita is that the soul is eternal. That's the fundamental teaching, the foundational teaching. The soul is eternal. The soul is consciousness and bliss. And so death is just a turning of a page in the journey of life, the story of our existence. Recently I was in New York. Was I in New York? I don't remember where I was. I've been traveling a lot since I took this order of renounced life. I was already a monk my whole life, but since accepting this order of sannyas or receiving it, I think I was in New York. I don't remember, because it was either New York City or one of the places, but I was really meditating on this idea of death ultimately as a friend in the spiritual path. We embrace our eventual death because it can lead us to the perfection of human life. We are on this earth to serve God, to help each other, to try to be a force for good and righteousness, and to advance ourselves in the spiritual path. But the human purpose of life is beyond liberation, loving relationship with God, and we can achieve that in the human form of life because we have reason and the ability to question, who am I? What is my purpose? What is my ultimate aim? And I was really thinking about this, and since I've been chanting my mantras, sannyas ashram is a form of initiation. It's like, you could say, the third initiation. Harinam, the initiation into the holy name. Then there's the initiation into the Gayatri mantras. And then the initiation into the sannyas mantras is to achieve the mood of the cowherd damsels of Vrindavan and their selfless mood of love and sacrifice in the service of Sri Krishna. That's the sannyas mantras, based on praying to one day embody and follow the footsteps of the Brija Gopis and embody their moods in service to Krishna, achieve that perfection. But when you chant this and perform meditation and your japa, your chanting, in this process, eventually you'll come to a realization of the self as distinct, not just from the body, but distinct from the subtle body, distinct from any conception of connection to possessions in this world. Ultimately, you understand that whatever comes to you is yours to serve. Like, we have many families here, and that means you have a responsibility to each other, to honor and serve each other, to love each other, to care for each other. That's another thing Gurudev said in Houston in 1996. He said, some people say you shouldn't love your family, love your wife, or husband, or children. He said, this is wrong. So this is wrong. Love your children, love your husband, your wife, your father, your mother, your brothers, your sisters. What did Christ say? Love thy God with all thy heart and love thy fellow man. Love your brothers as I have loved you. So this is an important principle. We all have our duties and our services and our love and care to offer. Our mission is based on the principle of serve, to serve and to love. So our website is servelove.com for anyone interested. So at the same time, we should understand that the spirit is of a higher nature. Krishna says in the Gita, you're of a higher nature than this world. Apariyam itastamyam prakritim vidime param. The soul is of a higher nature than matter. So don't remain fettered in attachments to matter. Because in the Gita 2nd chapter he says, all that you can perceive, that you can hear, touch, taste of this world is temporary. And the apparatus by which you see, hear, touch, taste, the objects in this world are temporary. But that which is eternal is ever abiding. By definition, it cannot be temporary. That is the spirit. So how can we achieve the highest attainment of the spirit? That is spiritual life. And that is the purpose of human life. So Krishna says, try to strive for the higher taste. Vishaya vinivartante nirahara siddhinam raso varjang raso pyasya param dristva nivartate. What is the higher taste? Higher taste is ras. Ras means what is your unique individual relationship with God in his spiritual abode. Consciousness, because it is higher than matter, the self is higher than earth, water, fire, air, ether. Self, consciousness is manifesting these things, therefore it's higher than these things. It's a higher principle. Therefore consciousness has its own conscious realm that is not limited by the temporary nature of matter. And that is our proper home. And we are merely refugees in this world. Therefore Lord Shiva smears the ash from cremation grounds on his body. And he teaches us as our first guru and as the highest devotee. In our scripture it is said, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu. Lord Shiva is the greatest of Vaishnavas or devotees of the Lord. So I was meditating on this and I came, honestly I can say it was the first time I had that profoundly, but I was at peace with life and I understood that I'm here to serve. I'm trying to serve and perform my service. I lived in India since I was a 10-year-old. I went when I was 9, received initiation from my guru, and I went every year on pilgrimage until I graduated from school and lived fully in the monastery for 16 years. And then afterwards, my teacher sent me to America to begin sharing this message. We started an ashram in New York. We built a temple together with volunteers. We fixed up our different houses. There were summer homes. And now I'm trying to continue my service. For me, our Gurudev would say, to repair a shoe is your service, and to speak before thousands of people is your service. All services are equal. But we should serve according to our duties, our responsibilities. So my Guru has also told me now to focus primarily on service by sharing the message of Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya and our Gurus and our lineage. So that is my service now. But I'm also traveling to communities to try to honor them, learn from them, and encourage them to continue in their services, not just to the temples, but to their families and to their community. Because a temple is there merely to serve the community. A temple is not there to serve the leadership. Leadership is there to serve the community. So I will speak a little bit about this as well. Lord Shiva is always meditating on the Supreme Lord Krishna in his eternal pastimes in Vrindavan with Shri Radha. So if you hear about Lord Shiva and his daily routine, who wants to hear about Lord Shiva's daily routine? Some people say, oh, Lord Shiva, this is common in Vrindavan. You see Shiva with the... This is not true. Lord Shiva is not a stoner. But these are material substances. And in comparison to transcendental bliss, they are worthless. So Lord Shiva is always relishing transcendental bliss. Therefore, he is not subject to the slavery of material substance abuse. I was in Maui and someone asked me, Krishna has so many cows, so many magic mushrooms must grow in Vrindavan. Tell me about the magic mushrooms. And I said, in Vrindavan, every particle of dust is a wish-fulfilling gemstone, touchstone. Every tree can fulfill all desires. And every cow herself is a goddess that can fulfill, is the abode of all the gods. All the gods reside within Mother Cow. Therefore, our first duty as a society is to serve Mother Cow, representative of Mother Earth. I heard Arjuna say, Mother Cow, you learned something good. You knew that already. Just repeating, good. So Lord Shiva, he's always meditating on Radha Krishna. 6 hours a day at least. It's described. This is obviously an example of his routine, but it's not always like that. But there are different forms and avatars of Lord Shiva as well. Some people think of Lord Shiva as the destroyer. He performs the dance of destruction. So you see the Natavar Shiva. They have this outside. I think it's the CERN in Switzerland, the atomic research facility. Lord Shiva is Natavar. You can see this. Very beautiful. Natavar Shiva. Dancing the cosmic dance of destruction. That's where they do the tests where they try to find the God particle. Where they try to find the God particle, Lord Shiva is dancing. And you know what he's saying? You're looking into matter, trying to find spirit. Look within and find your spirit first. The God particle is in your heart, not outside. First you find God within, then you'll see God everywhere. First find God in your heart and in the hearts of your fellow people. That's the God particle. The God particle is spirit. And we are part and parcel of the divine spirit. Therefore, we are spiritual beings going through various transformations and experiences. So Lord Shiva is meditating on the eternal activities, the transcendental divine, loving pastimes of Sri Radha, that's the divine feminine, counterpart of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, the divine masculine, throughout the eightfold segments of the day, from morning to evening, evening to morning. This is a very esoteric topic. I'm not going to go into the details of this at this time. It's a very deep esoteric practice. It's recommended that after between 10, 15, and 20 years of spiritual life, one should approach this subject with great honor and respect and begin to practice how to achieve the realization of one's spiritual nature and form and service therein. This is as is recommended by our Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Prabhupada. In 1932, he spoke on this at Sri Radha Kund, and he said, up to this point I've spoken on anartha nibritti, which means to eradicate the obstacles in your spiritual life, which are negative habits, negative attitudes, negative tendencies, negative behaviors, negative desires and moods. They said, now I will speak on artha pravritti. What is the positive attainment? And then he said, once you're chanting the Mahamantra for it depends on your degree of focus and your degree of advancement and how rapid it may be. It's more subjective than objective. But he said, as you develop through the stages of devotional practice, you should start practicing this method, what is known as Siddha Pranali. So this is an esoteric subject matter, but Lord Shiva is always in this absorption. Sometimes he's performing nritya, sankirtan, dancing and singing holy names. Sometimes he is speaking. So we say 6 hours of the day, Like we have morning, midday, evening, speaking about Krishna, speaking about spiritual knowledge. And morning, midday, evening, and throughout the different sections of the day, you should meditate on God and your relation with God. And dancing. These are our three main limbs. To dance and sing, to meditate, chant and pray, to speak about God and the nature of the self in relation with God. That is our spiritual life. And in between all these activities, what do? Very importantly. Take Mahaprasad. Haribo. What's the difference between prasad and just food? So prasad means food. What did you say, Arjun? Don't be shy. What is prasad?
Like food that you eat and it's offered to Krishna.
First you offer or do you eat it?
Yeah.
Yeah? First you offer and then you eat, right?
Yeah.
So prasad is food that you prepare, but real prasad means while you're preparing it, it's an offering. While you're collecting the ingredients, it's an offering. While you're cultivating the ingredients, it's an offering. While you're serving the cows, it's an offering. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, when you're in the proper state of consciousnness, everything becomes connected to the Parabrahman, transcendental substance, and the transcendental reality. Brahmarpanam, Brahmahavir, Brahmagno, the yajna, the performer of the yajna, the offering in the yajna, all becomes spiritualized. So then you offer the food stuff and you take it to maintain body and spirit as one. But really, this becomes itself a spiritual practice. Our Lord Chaitanya said, eat prasad up to your neck and dance in Harinam Sankirtan. Yeah? You can't eat on your neck, but it goes down your mouth to your neck, to your belly. He said, if you do this, the influence of Maya or the illusory energy will never come in contact with you. And he said, along with this, because he didn't say just eat, he said, dance with the devotees. Eat and then dance with the devotees. And he said, Kam, Krodh, lust and anger, Kiba korite pare, what can they do? Jadi hoy, if you are in sadhu sangha. It's Narottam Das Thakur. Kam, Krodh, Kiba korite pare, Jadi hoy, sadhu janara sangha. Lust, anger, and these vices cannot touch you. Even if they come in contact with you, they may. But if you're in sadhu sangha, everything you experience in life, whatever struggle you go through in life, is helping you progress. Sadhu sangha means attachment to the lotus feet of the saintly devotees. So Lord Shiva, we're going to tell one story and then conclude for tonight. So Lord Shiva, he lives in, where does he live? Who knows where he lives?
He lives in the mountains.
Mountains. See, Arjuna's A student. Lives in the mountains. Where's his house?
In the mountains.
In the mountains.
Kailash.
Kailash, Mount Kailash.
Yeah, also he has stairs too.
What does he have?
Yes.
Stairs. Good. Yeah, you have to have stairs. You know what? Mount Kailash is the mountain that no one's reached the summit. I've heard. And ultimately, these Himalayan mountains, beyond a certain point, there's a more astral dimension that only the Pandavas could go there because they were half demigods. Only one Pandava made it all the way. That's right. Ultimately to the heavenly realm, but they're more than we can see with our material vision. So Lord Shiva is practicing meditation in Mount Kailash. On his head, Mother Ganga is falling and he's keeping her head in his locks. On his hair, he has the half moon, crescent moon. Not half moon, crescent moon. He's always in meditation and singing and dancing. Who are his associates? Ghosts and spirits. Why? Because Lord Shiva is the supremely merciful. For those who are rejected by everyone else, he is the shelter. So people say, only good people should be allowed into the temple, the mission, this and that. And how are we following real bhakti? Living is one thing, and do we have the capacity like Lord Shiva to drink poison? But the real mood of our saintly gurus or Guru Varga is to help those who are suffering the most. I talk about this sometimes. I say, the world is starving for nectar, for love and for sweetness that's genuine. But we're mostly focusing on those who are already fed, those who are devotees, those who are tasting prasad, the nectar. But the mission of our Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is to come. He came to the Lower East Side, Manhattan. He lived with the bums. He lived alone as an old but eternally youthful, transcendental personality. But he came with that spirit and the power of Lord Nityananda, the brother of Lord Chaitanya, the brother of Lord Krishna, Balaram. And Lord Nityananda's mood is that for those who are most degraded, I am their dearest friend. For those who are suffering the most, I first help them. Je jata patita hoy. Those who are the most fallen. Tava doya tatatoy. There the mercy flows the most powerfully. Ye anya aravindaksha vimuktamaninas. Tvayasta bhavad avishuddha bhutaya. Aruya krichena padam padam. Patantiro nadrita yujmarangraya. You want mercy? Our Gurudev, I'm going back now to this point. You want my mercy? Go to the river and drink. If you're on top of the mountain like a stony, rocky, full of pride, and the water that falls from the heavens, the water of mercy, will flow from the mountain, go to the river. So you have to come down off the mountain of pride and drink the water from the river. So therefore it's said that those who consider themselves very elevated, but who have not taken shelter of the nectar of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, they will again fall down into material existence. Birth and death. So there's a very important story. We can continue it tomorrow, unless you'd like to hear a story.
We can do the story.
You want to hear a story tomorrow too, or should we keep going now?
We can keep going.
Okay, 10-15 minutes? We'll continue tomorrow. So one day, the goddess, Lord Shiva's consort, Goddess Parvati said, "Oh, dear husband." Before Shiva was an ascetic, but Lord Shiva, this is a very long topic, ultimately as well, we'll cover in due course, but being himself a manifestation of the Godhead, in this creation he has his Shakti, which means the feminine counterpart. The goddess Parvati, also known as Durga, she is known as the mother of the world. It's described in our scripture, Linga Yonyatmika Maya Iha Maheshwara Praja. All living beings, that means embodied beings, not the souls themselves. The embodied beings, that means the species and their bodies through which they act out their karmas. They all come through the combination of Lord Shiva and the goddess. So they are, in a way, mother and father of material existence. But they themselves are an expansion of Lord Vishnu, in the highest causal position, and the goddess Ramadevi. And from Ramadevi, Parvati manifests, and from the Lord Vishnu, as a partial manifestation, Lord Shiva manifests. So the goddess Parvati said, "We're living here. Now that you've married me, can you please make me a home? I need a house." Nothing wrong with that, right? So you as a man,
Big with that, right?
as a man living in a cave here and there. One time, you know the story of how Ganesh appeared to be having an elephant head?
Yeah, they cut off his Then he
Until he
got
does
an
everything.
elephant. Then Shiva.
One time the goddess Parvati was bathing in the cave, and she had her son, Ganesha. She said, you should stay outside and guard the entrance so that no one can enter. No man can enter while I'm bathing. She's a lady. She's very chaste. But he didn't yet, he was just born, and he was a divine being as well. So he didn't know his father's features, you could say. And Lord Shiva came along and tried to go into his cave. And the little boy said, you cannot enter. Who are you? So when he was way out doing his meditation, he's just a renunciant. Lord Shiva in his heart is just a mendicant. He's not really in this world. He's just partially in this world. So Parvati had a son or not. Sati had a son or not. The boy said, you cannot enter. So, what do you mean I cannot enter? I am Lord Shiva. I am the husband of Parvati, goddess. The goddess. No. Show me your ID. How do I know this or that? He was challenging him. Lord Shiva is easily angered, easily pleased. So he cut off his head. And then the goddess heard and came out and said, what have you done? He is my son. He is our son. And Lord Shiva, sometimes men do this, right? Easy to make a mistake. Hard to make it better. Right? You say something, do something. I didn't mean it. Yeah, but it's too late. You already did it. You said it. So she said, fix it. All right? Men are good at fixing things because they're also good at breaking things. We learned from childhood. We were just in Alachua, Gainesville, 2 mornings ago, and Trilokanath was playing at the Bhabuka. What was he, 3, 4 years old?
Yeah.
For a couple hours, For a couple hours that night, he was building castles and breaking castles. Building castles and break. He had this block system, and they would spend about an hour building it, and he was like, can we smash it yet? Can we smash it yet? Can we smash it? And then we go, and smash it, and then he was happy. He'd smile and laugh, and it'd take him a minute or so, and he'd, let's build it again. So there you go, there's male psychology in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Manifesting from his infancy. So Lord Shiva said, okay. She said, go and fix it. So he said, okay, whoever I find out there, I'm just going to replace. Whatever creature I find, I'm going to, because this is a divine being also, not easy, so easy to, it's the power of the gods, right? So Lord Shiva found an elephant, took the elephant head. We don't tell so much about what happened to the rest of the elephant, but anyhow, I'm so sure it got its highest welfare from its liberation in that regard. And the head was given to Ganesha, and now we worship Ganesha as an elephant head and a human body. So after that, the goddess said, give me some protected area. So he made a forest that if any male entity, animal or man, human, enter that area, they would become transgender. But their organs would also change. They would actually become, male would become female.
Okay.
Male animal would become female animal. So this was a little bit okay for her, except for Lord Shiva. He was the only one who had a pass, you could say. That worked for some time, but there's a lot of austerity living in the mountains of the Himalayas, cold, this and that. Please make me a home. Where do you want a home? Where do people live in cold mountain areas want? The Bahamas, Tahiti, Fiji, Bali, Hawaii. So he said, okay, pick the location. I'll do my best to fulfill your desire. Where did they go? Arjuna, you know? Where is Ravan's home?
Lanka.
Lanka, very good. Sri Lanka. He said there's if you go down from the Kailash mountains, all the way down through India, all the way down along the Mother Ganges, Mother Jamuna, and the holy rivers, Sarasvati, and down to Kanyakumari, tip of India, and then you go across the sea, a few thousand kilometers. What do you come to?
Lanka.
Beautiful, beautiful island, Sri Lanka. Okay, tropical paradise. So they went there, surveying the land. Where are you going to build it? How are you going to build it? What's the substance? He said, who should build it? Who is the architect of the gods? Vishvakarma. Karma means an activity and Vishva means the universe. So he has the activity of manifesting the forms of all the architecture of the universe, heavenly and beyond. There's two famous architects in the Vedic cosmology. What's Maya Danava. You want to tell me more about Maya Danava? Yes, the Asura subterranean species who are in the lower subterranean regions. Maya Danava, and a lot of our technology has come from that lineage, you could say, and the more Vedic spiritual architecture is coming from Vishvakarma, Vastu that we worship, and how we design spiritual structures. Lord Shiva didn't have money, even though it said the worshippers of Shiva are very wealthy, but he himself is a beggar. Why? He's always giving everything away. There are many stories. We'll tell more tomorrow about this.
You can tell more today.
One time there was a greedy Brahmin who said, "Oh Lord Shiva, I have a boon. I want a boon." And he would do tapasya for a long time. So finally Shiva was pleased. Austerity for a long time, he was pleased and he said, "What do you want?" This person was lame, blind, poor, had no family. So Lord Shiva said, "I'll give you one boon." What is the boon? The person said, he thought for a while, he said, "I want to see with my eyes my grandson jumping on my lap, and I want to carry him around, and I want to eat a golden table, delicious food served by all our attendants." Lord Shiva said, "Very wise, as you wish." If he has a grandson, he has a wife. His wife has kids, and then his kids grow up and have kids, and he lives to see them, and he has the eyes to see them, and he has the legs to walk around and move, and he has the wealth to enjoy it all. Jai Lord Shiva. He can give whatever you desire, no problem. You have to do the tapasya for it. There are many, many stories about performance of austerities to get the favor of Lord Shiva. We'll tell them in our continuing series. I have a series on our podcast called Stories for Seekers, so this also falls within this category, Stories for Spiritual Seekers. The podcast is called Servant for the People, and ultimately our aspiration, our mission. So back to the story. Lord Shiva invited Vishvakarma to build his palace in Lanka, but they needed what? Lakshmi, gold. So who is the wealthy treasurer of the demigods? That is Lakshmi is the personification of all fortune, but Kuvera is the demigod who is the treasurer of the gods. And he's also the god brother of Lord Shiva. Did you know that? He's the god brother. They're both the disciples and worshippers of Sankarshan, the Lord. Another story. So Kuvera gave a loan, and they began the construction of the temple and the house and the palace and the grounds and the kingdom. Ultimately, it was a whole kingdom. At the end of the construction, it gets interesting here. It was finished, and God has said, "Let us enter our home, begin our life together in blissful matrimony." Lord Shiva said, "Yes, this is okay, but first we have to invite a priest and perform a sacred ceremony, honor God, honor the land, honor the deities of the earth who have given us the capacity and the facility to have this sanctuary." So they performed that. They said, "Who should we invite?" He said, "There's one very wise, learned Brahmin. son of Vishvasu, I believe, similar to that name, Vishrava, something like that. His name is Ravana. At that time, he was very scholarly Brahmin priest. His father is a great sage, a Brahmin. If you go to India, Loy Bazaar, where it is the market, very famous market in Vrindavan, and you go to the bookstores, you'll find many editions of the Ravan Sanghita, which is all the teachings of Ravan. He was very wise. He was very learned. It's about 1,000 pages. Big book. Very interesting. It's part of the Vedic scriptures. Supplementary. So Ravan came and he did the yajna. Swaha. Swaha. Arjuna, what did he say? Everyone said it too, okay? Swaha. Swaha. Come on, louder.
Swaha. Swaha.
Okay, so they did the yajna. After the ceremony, you have to give a donation to the priest. This is the Vedic culture. If someone is performing a service, you honor that service by giving a donation. Otherwise, you do not get the fruit of your desire. Your desire does not bear fruit because this is not a proper energetic exchange. Right? The Brahminical order is not meant to have a designated fee for their services. Just like a preacher or a teacher is not meant to have a designated fee, or a singer. Our Bhaktivinoda Thakur said a paid singer is like the lowest, especially if they're performing kirtan, or a paid preacher who speaks the Bhagavat. They're very like the lowest to the low in a way. But the honorable thing to do is to offer some contribution. So Lord Ravan said, where's my dakshin? Where's my donation? At that time, Lord Shiva is, do you want ashes? Do you want my snakes? He dresses in snakes. He's a friend of snakes and ash. Ravan said, no. I don't need your snakes. I don't need your ash. Parvati was also very simply dressed. She didn't have any wealth either because she was married to him. She was the daughter of the Himalayas mountains, the personified deity of the Himalayas, and she did austerities herself to marry Lord Shiva, and she had nothing. She was an ascetic as well. When Ravan was doing the worship, his eyes became like saucers, like plates. Big eyes. Why? What is the big eyes? Oh, Lanka.
Oh no.
Lanka, 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 Lanka. What is this, Lanka? I want it for myself. So, when Lord Shiva said, I have nothing to give, he said, if you don't give something, everything will be destroyed. I have nothing to give. Snakes and ash, snakes and ash. My dreadlocks. You want my dreadlocks? No. You want Ganga? No. What do you want? Well, if you have nothing else to give, then I guess you could just give your Lanka. Golden Palace, Island. Tatastu, let it be. Lord Shiva gave him the island, gave him the palace. But Ravan, when this sinful tendency came in his heart, why? Should give donation. But those who receive should have no greed. Our culture as monks who travel and perform, I also have to perform ceremonies, services. Anything I receive, I offer to my guru. And then I offer, when I ever go back to our temple, I offer the shoes, the feet of our guru, his divine paduka, his shoes, and then give it to our treasurer, our team, and have transparent finance and say, do as you like. Let's discuss what is the proper use, but ultimately I'm a wandering beggar. How can I give up my position of being a beggar? By accumulating. I tell people I have two possessions besides what I'm wearing. I have the possession of the mantra received from my guru, and the performance of his service, Guru Seva. Those are my properties. Whatever comes in association with that is there to also honor and serve. But the path of the renunciant is to not accumulate for one's own enjoyment. So Ravan acquired this, and then sin personified entered his heart. Became a demon. And from that point on, everything in the world was for his enjoyment. We'll finish up with this point, very important. Moral warning. Moral of the story is coming. Okay? It's very important. In the first verse of Ishopanishad, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatam jagat. Whatever is there in the world is the property of God. The Native Americans understood this. Capitalist culture doesn't. Communist culture doesn't. Communist culture is godless. And capitalist culture has God but thinks they're the proprietors. And there's varying degrees of everyone. Nowadays everyone is Sudra, mostly, which means everyone is not acting according to the principles of true godly life. They're trying to various degrees. I'm not criticizing anyone or anyone's faith or culture. But the principle is that nothing is ours. That's the first principle. Everything is God's. God created it. We didn't create it. First create something. You can say, oh, I created the child. I created the house. With whose ingredients? You created your own body? Oh, my mother, my father. Who created their body? When you go back to the source, it's God. With what materials did you build your house? Oh, those are mine. I earned them. I paid for them. With whose energy? Did you pay for the water and the food? Okay, there's so many arguments. The air. Nowadays, everyone wants to commercialize everything. Pay for the water, pay for If you told someone 100 years ago you have to pay for water, they'd laugh at you. Huh. In some countries, they want you to pay for the rainwater that falls and you can't collect it. This is called demon. Demonic. Man is mind, and D means degraded. Demon. Degraded mentality. That is demon. Soul is not a demon, but demonic tendencies can enter when we open the doors to evil. And it enters our heart. What is that? Avarice, greed, gluttony. Krishna says, do not over-accumulate. Whatever comes is for service. That doesn't mean you're not a caretaker. Have your homes, have your family, but don't let Purush Bhav, which means the idea that you are yourself God, take over your life. Understand you're the servant of God. Then you can be a righteous, dharmic person, care for your family, and you should have we firmly believe in, I'm not saying we don't believe in private property, have your home, things like that. It's better than, there's one thing I just want to conclude with this topic. In my life, what I'm trying to do is understand the importance of serving people and ultimately and for the pleasure of our gurus and ultimately Krishna. But we have certain kind of missionary statements in our mission, which is you should put people before projects, individuals before institutions, families and friends first, and together you serve. Together we serve love, we serve God, we care for each other. But if you put the monument before the members, then you use the members as tools to build your own edifice for your own prestige. This is the problem we face in a lot of organizations and spiritual culture and religious groups. Especially the founders and the leaders want to create the edifice that immortalizes themselves, understanding Now, that means the demonic tendency is entering their heart. Because the body is not immortal. And we should identify with the spirit. Therefore, communities come together and build temples, and they are for the service of the community. And leadership is there to serve the community and the needs of the community. And the community together puts their collective energy forward. In the Bible it said, faith can move mountains. How to develop faith? We heard very beautifully this statement from our Gopali mother here. It said, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. That's leadership. And so in our mission, we are trying to live up to the ideal or reach up to that ideal of servant leadership, which means the responsibility of the leader is to care for and to serve the people. The people themselves decide what is in our best interest, in the best interest of society. And when they've come to that understanding, and they can do that in council with leaders, they put their energy forward towards that. But it's not the duty of the leaders to themselves use the people as tools only for their means, to their end. Right? So I say people are, when you put the project first, you use people as the means to the end. Use people as your tools to create your dream.
Yeah.
But the job of the leader is to care for the people first. Let the people manifest their dream. That is our vision.
Very nice.
That is the mood of servant leadership. Come together, decide what you like. Some people like magnificent palaces as their homes. Dwarka. But that also sank. Some people like Vrindavan, simple, pastoral. But where is that Vrindavan of Krishna now? It's in the heart. So ultimately, our mission is to build the temple in the heart. And to realize the kingdom of God is in our heart. Then as communities, we build structures that are favorable to our community's spiritual growth. And there's a principle in organizations that if people are rowing in the same direction, you can go anywhere you want. You can achieve anything you aspire for, as long as it's not the idea of a madman or a collective of madmen. But row in the same direction. So that's the principle of a healthy community. But first, care for each other, and don't get lost in the weeds of the material aspirations, because it's just a sandcastle. Mother Earth gets the last laugh every time over petty tyrants, so-called founders, CEOs, and so-called creators. At the end of the Bhagavad, 12th canto, Mother Earth has her song. She says, I have heard and I've witnessed all of your activities, all the demons that tried to rule the earth. I've seen you rise, I've seen you fall, and I am laughing. Because, why is she laughing? She's not vindictive, but it's a teaching for us. She's saying, I'm laughing, right? To let you know that the cosmic joke is on you. Because none of these things last. Kamsa tried to live forever. Hiranyakashipu tried to live forever. Tried to become immortal. The body cannot be immortal. Therefore, we honor Lord Shiva today. We meditate on Lord Shiva and try to understand how to care for each other, love and serve each other. And Krishna says, you should not be lazy, you should serve and you should build a better world together if possible. First by being the change in your own life and in your families and in your communities and then in your society. So it's not that we should not build, but nowadays, especially, not just the present times, but in all times, people fight over the structure. And they fight over the minds and the hearts. But this is a demonic mentality. Fighting. We should serve. And we should care. We should defend and we should honor. We should not try to control, because God is the supreme controller. And we are all servants of God. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatrivya kripa sindhuvescha paritanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo.